installed on Russian computers. All these browsers support search through the address bar in Russian language quite well. So it's a kind of current competition between domain name addressing the content and searching tools, but no matter how the goal is achieved.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of user experience when you don't feel the difference between the request to search engine or typing the domain name into the address bar. You just typing what you want to find and you get it.
Exactly.
And the IDN domains just help to achieve this exact goal.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Yoni, I would like to ask you, what was the, now in different way, how did you formulate the initial goal of ICANN when you were starting this program? Was it, we have just get some different points of view. One of them was about the user experience. One of them was the ability to use the internet for people who don't know English well. And another one point of view that is also shared by many of experts is that it's kind of self-expression, because people want to express their nation in the internet. So what was the initial purpose of ICANN when IDN started?
Oh, thank you very much. So, hello everybody. I'm Jonas Soinen, and I'm the IETF liaison to the ICANN board, and I'm also part of the board IDN working group. So, I think I cannot completely answer your question because I wasn't then there when it started. But I think that you actually listed very well and these topics came up during the discussion here as well. Which are the reasons that IDNs exist, and which are the reasons that they still are relevant, which is basically starts with the access to languages, to people's own language, that way enabling people's access to information on the internet much better, because they don't have to learn a different script just to browse on the internet. One thing is national and linguistic identity, which the first speaker discussed about, which is an important aspect as well. So language is part of your identity as a nation sometimes, or as a group under that language. That is also very important. And then the third one that was basically now been also mentioned by Irina and Edmund is the very practical thing. You don't have to change the mode that your keyboard is working just to type in Latin scripts, or now what Edmund used as a very good example is basically that when you're actually speaking something out. I know myself how difficult it is even to get any of these things to understand what I say in English, let alone to try to say something that is written in my language, but using just the script that is available in the DNS, and how to pronounce that. That is quite difficult. And get the computer to actually understand that. So there is these three issues, I think, that are the ones that are actually driving it. The linguistic issue of actually having access to information to people that do not know the Latin script or English. The second one is the national and linguistic identity, and third one is a practical one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. We have another source person. This is the Sanya Simonova from Macedonia. You're also welcome to present your perspective on this question.
Hi to all. My name is Sanya Simonova, as you said, representing the registry, National Registry. I just wanted to say that since we introduced the IDN in 2015, that is almost 3 years from then, and now we have almost 500 registered .mkd domains. Here I'm also to present the perspective of our national registers, because before I come here, I ask them to just to write an email to say something like what is their view of the domain now, and maybe the domain in foreseeable future. So if we have time, I would just like to read some short sentences that they pleased me to say them here.
Yes, keep it briefly, please, but you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. And while you're searching for them, I believe we have comments from the audience. Please
Hi.
Represent yourself.
Hi, this is
and-
Barry Lieba. I work on internationalization and IDNs in the IETF. And I have a question for Edmund. You said, hi, you said, well, you implied that there's not a lot of uptake in the CJK land for IDNs. Is that because of one of the following things or something else? Is it because of lack of interest in registering the domain names? Is it because of confusion or difficulty registering them? Is it because of difficulty in using them in the applications? Is it because of problems in acceptance of them in the internet services, or is it something else?
This is Edmund here. Thank you for the question. I think that's really nails right down to what it is. So this is my version of how I see the situation. About 18 years ago, we launched IDNs in ways that is not fully standardized and not fully accepted. The first day of registration, over 1 million registrations came in. And then registrants realized that it didn't work. Simply didn't work on the internet at that time. So a lot of them are, well, I shouldn't say a lot, at least a good chunk of them are investors. And they came in, they didn't get the product that they think they were getting, and they, once hurt, they're twice shy. And then come along right now, I think two things important. One is, because of that, when you look at the registrations rate today, at different registries, where the IDN portion usually represents about 5 to 10% of the registration, so it doesn't look like a lot for registries. Neither does it look like a lot for registrars. Therefore, the infrastructure is not fully built to accept IDNs. Yes, you can register IDNs readily right now, and probably handle variants and those kind of things as well. But when you go to hosting, when you have to host it online, that becomes a problem. When you want to do email, that becomes another problem. So you don't have it. It has a second class citizen kind of feel to IDNs right now, and you have to try to work around a lot of things to get it to actually work. So I think right now the problem is that's why I say that there is a market failure problem. If you just depend on the market, even if end customers are interested, they don't know, and they get frustrated when they try to get to use it. So you kind of have to get the infrastructure done properly until it can work. Will it really come? It's hard to say. But right now, we still have a lot of challenges in terms of universal acceptance, and we need to get them ironed out so that IDNs can feel can be used and feel like just using your English or ASCII domain as just the same. Then we can know whether the end user really wants it or not. That's how I see it.
Thank you, Edmund. As I said before, if you have comments or questions, you're welcome to, and you want to compliment speakers in any way. Yes, we have another one comment. Please represent yourself. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Umar. I'm from Qatar, and I'm representing .QA and .Qatar in Arabic, IDNs. So actually, I would like to comment on his latest comment. That is the same challenge we are facing right now. The first challenge that we are facing is about, similarities or variants. So the Arabic scripts is having the same character, but with very different meaning. Like, for example, A character in Arabic, which is alif. That has very different pronunciation, different meaning in the context, and so on. So that's one of the major issues we are facing every now and then. How about these similarities and variants? The second is about the application. For example, the email services is not working well in Arabic. And the low-level application, for example, the DNS bind software is not you cannot, for example, write down in Arabic scripting inside the scripts itself. So we have to translate it to IDN converter and then put it in that format, XN dash dash and so on. So it's another challenge that we have to face. And the third challenge is about convincing the end user to start using the Arabic script. Because even when they search on Google, for example, for a domain written in Arabic, then they end up with a domain in English scripting. So the same domain, you end with the English version of it, not the Arabic one. So these are some kinds of challenges that we are facing now, and we are trying to address it and find a solution for it. But more or less, yeah, the same challenge I think globally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And do you have another comment, please?
Hi, I'm Shona Savir from Bangladesh, and we launched our IDN last year, but still not seeing that much picking it up, actually. I just heard that from Macedonia that they have 500 registered IDN domains already. Can I get a comparative statement that the 500 in IDN, then how much in the English CCTLD is the ratio of that, actually? Just to know that people are actually taking interest in IDN or still far behind?
Yeah, most of the registered IDN in Macedonia actually are used for redirection. This is not still like a primary domain. And I think that the idea about an email address on Cyrillic is still distant for our users for now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So, Sanya, do we have some expressions of Macedonian registries about what do they think about the IDN? Did you find them?
Yes, I do.
So, welcome.
They say that Macedonian language as an official language in the Republic of Macedonia is based on alphabetic script, and the reason why they become registers of Cyrillic domains is that because they want to contribute in promotion of our language, and they want to motivate the Macedonian companies, institutions, and also individuals to use this domain. They also confirm that most of these domain names registered by them are used for redirection. And in future, they suggest us that we should work more on promoting of this domain name. Because since I work in Marnet, the promotion of the Cyrillic domain had some chance only in the beginning when the domain was introduced and when the first person of Marnet was Mr. Sasha Dimitrievski, also present here, together with the Ministry of Information Society and Administration and the Institute of Macedonian Language. And since then, I cannot witness some promotion or to be present somewhere in the public. And I would also like to add something that maybe Macedonia as a country and Marnet as a national registry should do something about this, so this domain could be more popular, especially for the individuals, and maybe, why not, for Macedonian brands to have their own Cyrillic domain.
Thank you so much. And I believe this leads us to the next interesting question, that is, IDN domains is quite popular in some countries, but it's still the number of registration is not so big, especially in comparison with other domain zones. So, what is the most, the main obstacle in the implementation of IDN? I would also like to answer this question, all the stakeholders, national registries, internet dialogue schools, and international organizations also. Let's start from this side also. Sasha, please. Maybe it needs some more marketing efforts, or maybe it's a technical issue. What is behind this problem?
Dusan will later show you how the survey answers are regarding this question, but I will just speak now as a former representative of the national CCDLD. It really depends from country to country. So I'm speaking especially for Macedonia as a showcase here. In our country, most of the citizens are using English, So the need for IDN as a tool for citizens who doesn't use English as a language is minor. And even in chatting through the internet, our citizens are using Latinic script, and it's rather more convenient to them to continue to speak on Macedonian but using a Latin script than to switch on the Macedonian alphabet. So in the beginning we tried really hard to promote the national IDN. As Sanja mentioned, we tried through the government, through the ministries, through the Institute of Macedonian Language, but to be honest, I don't believe that this number could be bigger in the future. Even maybe in the very beginning we had a higher number, then this number is going down. I think that is the same issue in all neighboring countries using this IDN Cyrillic script. Maybe we can do more in promoting the IDN in our country, but I don't see that that it will go up. Most of those IDN domains already registered owned by governmental institutions, which was obliged to register their domain names also in Macedonian Cyrillic script.
And just to add something, regarding the price, we decided the price for Cyrillic domain in Macedonia to be the same as for the Latin domains, which means that that is only 10 euros for the first year of registration and only 5 years every next year for renewal. That price is very low for a domain, so I don't think that that is an obstacle to register a domain. But on one of the meetings that Marnet had with the registrars, one of the proposed solutions for promoting the domain was should the price to be lower, but how much lower the price can be?
Hello, everyone. My name is Lana Galstan. I'm from the Armenian Society Registry for NIDN. We have launched it 2 years ago. And honestly, it's not going well. We do not have many registrations as we expected. And one of the reasons we think may be the issue of the emails, IDN emails. So this is really something that you cannot market when you are selling the IDNs themselves, because people, they will use the website thing, but if they do not, they cannot continue or suggest to their customers the IDN emails. It's not the whole package. So this is, I think, one of the most issues, the challenging things, that it's not promoting that well. And but on the other hand, the marketing is really an important thing as well. And I think that at least for the Armenian community, it's not that popular, maybe because people do not know that much about it. So information awareness raising is one of the issues that we are now trying to reach through some promotions, campaigns that the registry is doing. And as for the price, yes, I agree, it doesn't work. I mean, if it's even a very low price, it is not the obstacle to promote the IDN. People should know about it, that there is such thing, and they would like to use it. For many of Armenian companies and individuals, they do promote their products, if speaking about a business sector, they are working outside of the country. So the market, the people they work is not within the country. So those who do not know Armenian, there is no use for it. But on the other hand, having an IDN domain is kind of keeping the national identity. So this is something for national heritage, to have something in your own language. This is a thing that we knew we would like to promote more. So for us as a registry, it is not a business campaign. For us to have
Thank you so much. Very interesting point. And I should add that while preparing to the session, I contacted some vendors and collected some statements that I think would be very interesting to present. But before that, I want to finish with that questions and to ask the ICANN representative what his opinion is the main obstacles in IDN implementation, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that clearly the main obstacle that I see currently is the universal acceptance. That is, like what we have discussed here, when you give more information about IDNs and so on, you also hit the universal acceptance problems much harder. And then you also have the possibility to alienate people who try it in the first time when it's not actually yet there. The universal acceptance problem is really a difficult problem because it's just not convincing, well, it's not just convincing Google or convincing Microsoft or Apple. You are convincing some person that doesn't know really what even a domain name is, that has done a script or does checks on his website that or her website that is does something look like an email address or does something look like a web address, and that person's script then just doesn't support that, and that's not a person that you will necessarily reach through the normal channels that you reach the big companies or very advanced developers. So that makes it very difficult here. And of course, the issue of universal acceptance is a question of synchronizing the whole industry at the same time behind the technology. I think that an analogy of this is really that what we have had also with IPv6. I was, like Edmund has been saying that IDNs come in 5 years. I have been saying IPv6 comes next year, and I'm sure it comes next year. It's not a problem. But the thing is that in a naive and childlike manner, we had optimism when we started with it. Well, this is not too difficult. I'm like, it's just a little bit longer address and a couple of different changes, and we'll change it. New routers will have it, and Microsoft will support it, and so on. And what we didn't understand is the long tail of things that have to change. And especially difficult became the customer premises equipment, your home routers, which are not done by a big company that participates in IETF standardization. It's done by a small company that downloads something from the internet and uses some open source software and uses that. And that is the similar thing that we have with universal acceptance in DNS. That basically you really have, it's a hard time to reach these people, though that for everybody this seems like a no-brainer, this is somewhere we have to move to, but really synchronizing everybody in this chain to make it work is really hard. On the marketing as well, I think that end users need basically also knowledge about this, that they start to basically trust these. Just as anecdote, so I'm Finnish, I live in Finland, and I heard a friend of mine and we don't have a different script, but we have 3 letters that don't exist in Latin alphabet. And usually, and especially 2 of those, A and Ö, are, which is an A with dots on and O with dots on, are used a lot in our language, but haven't been available in DNS. So what we've done over the past 20 years is trained people that those do not exist on the internet. Now they exist, they're a possibility, and a friend of mine actually noticed that the smallest shop was not using them and was still using the Latin characters, and asked them, why are you doing this? And why they are using this, why they're not using it in their radio promotion that they were doing. And that shop said, like, well, none of the users would know what we would be talking about if we all of a sudden say that with these Finnish characters, this is our web address. The customers would anyways type it in a way without these special characters because they're just so used to that. And so retraining people that they actually can use their native script or native language is also a problem, I think, in this.
Thank you so much. And we have another one participant. So this is Jennifer from Asia. Do you have anything to add, please?
Thank you very much. Can I be?
It's
Perfect. Yes, thank you for the introduction. Yes, I'm Jennifer Chung from Asia. I do agree very much with all the statements that our colleagues have said previously. It is a really big problem, particularly not even just for individuals who don't type in Latin script or ASCII. It's a lot of people in Asia Pacific where they actually don't know the language. They can't use this. And then there's also the SMEs, the small to medium business and enterprises. They don't see the value in creating perhaps like their identity online in their own language if they can't interact with their clients and customers in local languages. So I see Edmund has talked about, and other people have also talked about universal acceptance. Fiona has talked about how difficult it is to synchronize across industry and sectors. You need the coders, the app developers, the website browsers, as well as people who actually make the decisions, like the CTOs, the governments, for that backing. I know ICANN has really put a lot of resource and support behind universal acceptance. And I really want to bring, the point that the Universal Acceptance Steering Group is really trying to do a lot of local initiatives. Asia is trying to really start a lot of local initiatives to actually raise this awareness in the actual localities that people would need to know that this can be done, how this can be done, and what there is to be done, there's a lot to be done ahead, really. So that's really my 2 cents to that.
I see. Thank you so much. And there was very good point about the collaboration with vendors, with the internet business, and with the problems of technical problems with the implementation. And as I said before, while preparing to this session, I contacted some vendors. One of them is Yandex. It's a very popular Russian search engine and one of the most popular email service. And as Edmund said before, there is some existing technical solutions for IDN emails that already works. And I asked them, why don't you implement that? Why don't you want to make Cyrillic emails, for example? And the answer was that the first commercial company who will implement all the new technology will get all the users' negative reaction, no matter is the Yandex fault that something is not working properly or not. And I would like to ask our panelists and our audience, first, do they agree with that? And the second question is, what should we do with it? How could we convince vendors and internet business to implement new technical solutions? Maybe someone wants to ask, or we will start from... Yeah, sure.
So the kind of like, of course, the pioneers are the ones who are going to pay the most cost on that. I think that is quite clear. That is something that we've seen in other technologies as well. The first mover will pay will pay a bigger cost than the ones that come to already laid table. That's for sure. Therefore, the first movers need to see a benefit for themselves to do that. As an example, again, from my past on the IPv6 side, there was a vendor that was doing customer premises equipment again that automatically put IPv6 on and created a tunnel over IPv4, and you got an IPv6 connectivity in your home just automatically out of the box. And this this was then represented in the newspapers that company is putting people in harm's way because it didn't have exactly the same, it didn't have a network address translator on that, which was considered by that newspaper of being a security function, and saying basically that this company is putting all their customers' homes online without asking them. And it was a very nice gesture from this company. They were really trying to be pioneers, but it just backfired very badly. So I'm pretty sure that this issue is true. and those companies that move first or people that move first need to see an advantage by themselves to absorb that cost.
But what should we do with it?
Oh, not break the microphone. There is very little that we can do. I think that the thing is basically those companies should understand what is the benefit. That is something that has to be explained. And this is the benefits we have discussed. It's getting the next billion people basically accessing their services and using their services. But those companies have to actually see that themselves and be able to do the business case for that. And I think it was Liana or somebody who said that basically, or no, sorry, it was somebody else who said that basically the problem is that you don't just talk with technical people, you have to talk with the CEOs, CTOs, and worst of all, the CFOs of those companies, and get them to understand that. And this is the difficulty there, that you have to create a demand before you have something to explain to the CEO that you're actually losing money because you're not doing this, and then who will then tell the CFO, yes, the investment is fine, and the CTO just find the technology to do that. But it's really hard, it's a chicken and egg problem. But I would assume that this is actually moving ahead, and I share the optimism that Edmund has, that though that this has taken a long time, there are clear steps of progress. It's just a little bit slower than what we anticipated.
Thank you so much. Anyone else who wants to add? Edmund, Rina?
Edmund here. So this is precisely what I've been saying earlier on the chicken egg issue and the market failure. Even when some of the participants are interested in rolling out, they're afraid of the customer support issue. So in terms of solution for that, it's very difficult. But I think this particular idea I have been nursing for some time. I don't think we're ready for it yet, but in a couple of years, when we get more people to be ready, we should have like an IDN day. Everyone turns it on the same time, right? If we get everyone to turn it on the same time, then everyone gets a bit of the customer service issue that they get. It was quite successful, I guess, for IPv6. There was an example there. But before we go there, the reason why I think we're not fully ready for that yet is we need to get companies to be ready. Even if you don't turn on some of the stuff, get your systems ready. In order for us to have the IDN day, we'll need them to get them to be ready. And one of the things that in the recent year or so, I've been, kind of waving around. Some people think I'm a little bit crazy because it will never work. But I think we need to go to the schools. We need to go to universities. When they first learn DNS and when they first learn IP, they need to know IPv6. They need to know that there is IDNs. And hey, we're talking about already 10 years now. So if we do that, and we go to universities and make sure that the 101 courses have these in place, 5 years from now, the generation that comes in, they will all know that there is IDN. They will all know that there is EAI and IPv6. Then it's not another iteration of learning. So one of the things is, one side is get the groundswell of readiness there, and the other thing, I think in 3-4 years, let's try to move for an IDN day, and I think that might get the hump, get us over the hump.
Yeah, so if I may, so building on something what Edmund said, and actually agreeing with him, not only that people think he's crazy, but agreeing actually on the thing where people think he's crazy. It is actually something that you will teach the next generation of coders in the universities and the schools of that sort. And if you think about what they have as material now, it's the Stevenson's TCP/IP illustrated book, which will say that only ASCII is allowed, and by the way, this is how IPv4 works. That's how they learn. And the thing is basically that has to change for the next generation of coders to take this. And I think you're absolutely right there. The other thing about the Readiness Day, IDN Day, actually I completely agree with you. The IP version 6 day worked well, though that it sounds really silly because you go like, if you can turn it on, why don't you just? But there is nothing that effective as peer pressure and shaming. The thing is basically that when you get people together, first of all, to get ready for that, they usually have to exchange information on how did you do that in your organization? How did you get ready? Can I use the same methodology to help in my company or institution or whatever? The other thing is that basically the thing is that they think, oh, there are other people that are interested in this and think this is important, not only that it's me who's crazy in this company and nobody listens to me anyways. And the thing is also that when you see your competitors doing something, usually your instinct is to do the same thing, and that helps as well. One thing that I wanted to ask Edmund actually is that with IP version 6 in the early days, what we had as well were tools to basically to try, does your code work? It wasn't, we called it a certification program, but it was actually a self kind of testing thing. Have you thought, and I mean like in this, it's not as simple because IP version 6 is very simple protocol to test, whereas you don't have just a protocol here to test. But do you have kind of like thought about checklists or something like that where you can say that check if your service or some sort of popular service, if that's compatible with IDNs?
Edmund here. Yes, that is exactly what the UASG has been doing in the last 3 years, starting from a set of specifications on the 5 areas to accept, to validate, to display, to store, to process it properly, and spanning out. We have a set of toolkit actually modeled a little bit around the web accessibility framework that's for people with disabilities and able to access the web. So it's a suite of tools rather than, I guess, IPv6 is slightly more straightforward, but it's a suite of tools that are being tested right now. So I invite everyone to come participate at the UASG. One iteration is already done to check basically the readiness, UA readiness of a site or of a system. And the ICANN work actually at ICANN with Ashwin and his team within the ICANN corporation and the ICANN networks, that's also trying to use some of the tools to see if they work well. So it's not complete yet, but yes, we are building a set of tools so that any site can try to use it and check where the non-compliance or where the readiness needs to be.
We have a remote question.
Let's finish through with these questions. We have much more panelists than 2, and we will finish with these questions, and then we'll move to the remote one. Irina, do you have anything to add to this question? Or you? Jennifer was first, so please.
Thank you. Just adding on to what Edmund said, to actually go to the Universal Acceptance Steering Group website to see these toolkits. It's uasg.tech, and you have use cases for UA readiness. You have a knowledge database there, and then there's status reports. So it's really information available for anywhere from coders to people who don't really understand what universal acceptance is. It's kind of a primer there as well. There's an introduction. So just wanted to add a little bit more to what Edmund was saying.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Irina.
Well, this is Irina. I fully agree that education is very important, but we have also agreed that at the moment introduction IDN universal acceptance is probably not really commercially reasonable for big companies, and they don't see enough market demand for these, to ensure IDN compliance. So from the business, from the commercial perspective, so they probably, they really need to see other benefits for doing this. And since we are here for the Internet Governance Forum, where a lot of different other stakeholders are here, it's probably up to society and governments to find this incentive, additional incentive for the commercial companies to work on this. And the society has these examples, like at the modern, none of the big company can even say that they don't take care of ecology. Yeah? This is important, and any big company has to demonstrate that they care about this. So something like this should happen with the IDNs, because if we agree that this is not only about technical things, but this is about their national identity and the ability for the people, for the country to be and to present itself in the internet in its own language, then we probably will be able to find more benefits for the businesses to implement that.
Thank you so much. That's very interesting points of view that we can speak about IDNs in terms of social responsibilities. We have some remote questions, so I think it's exact time to ask them to our panelists and to our audience.
So we do have a remote question, and then I have also another question for the panelists. So the remote question comes from Patrick Kane, and he's asking, any thoughts on changing the DNS to handle something more evolved than plain ASCII, such UTF-8 or UTF-16? Quite technical. Anyone that wants to take it?
That's pretty technical.
Patrick is from Verisign.
I see. That's pretty technical one. So anyone want to answer it?
So the question was that to change from ASCII to Unicode in DNS. I mean, like, that's what IDNs kind of are. That is the point. It is really, the thing is that it's not though that it took a long time to define some of the standards that specify this, that was the easy part. It's getting that deployed exactly, that is the difficult part. But the actually changing to DNS to accept Unicode is what we're doing here.
Yes, we have a comment from the audience, please. Please turn on the mic and
Hello.
present yourself.
My name is Stéphane Couture from York University in Canada. Thanks for the last presenter who mentioned the government, because nobody mentioned the government before, I think. So there was no mention about policy in your presentation. And I'm a bit surprised because, let's say, the Russian and Chinese government decide to stop using Latin. It will put some kind of pressure on enterprises to move into international domain name. But I was wondering if this was considered. Is there any kind of policy lobbying or government lobbying that is done on this, or it's just about like market oriented?
Thank you so much. That is also a very interesting point of view, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that the internet is all about the goodwill, that it should not be developed by some kind of restrictions. For example, I don't think that, for example, as you mentioned, Chinese government should some kind of stop using Latin words in direct way.
My question is still, is there anything done about policy? That was my question. Second, like, there is always exclusion. We are talking about connecting the next billion, so I assume they are excluded already.
Okay, got it.
This is Irina. Well, first I have to actually thank Russian government for the marketing support they gave to the IDN at the launch. because, well, a couple of the very first domain names registered were for the Cyrillic for Russian for the government and for the president, and there was the launch of IDN was mentioned by high-level officials, so they really helped a lot with advertising and promoting at the very first stage. But at the same time, I would definitely applaud and support if there would be not the political decision for the whole country, but at least the decision that the government institutes should internally use the systems which are IDN compliant. For example, all the officials should have the IDN email. That I would definitely support.
Thank you. Edmund?
Edmund here again. So yes, I think the answer, I also mentioned that I think it is going to be very effective. I think, as I mentioned, I think there is a market failure, and market failure is only can be addressed by policy. In the past little while, I've been pushing this idea. However, it hasn't been in the UASG. It hasn't been seen as a very top priority. Although we are doing some work in terms of how we do it, is procurement policies. Right, the next time you buy an IT system for the government, they should, the systems integrator should at least tell you whether they are IDN compliant and whether they are, what the roadmap is. That is actually done at ICANN already. I think in part of the ICANN support for the universal acceptance work is in the ICANN procurement program now. In their contracts with new IT solutions, they have added the requirement to say, tell us what you are going to do about IDN acceptance, about universal acceptance, and then I think that is a big step forward. And I'm hopeful that some of the governments will try to do that. We are advocating it to some governments. I know that the Chinese government is looking into this specifically, so in future IT procurement, they would be looking for this kind of thing. I know that in Thailand, they are also doing similar thing, especially in terms of giving all the Thai officials a Thai email address. But they're hitting a little bit of the same issues. They're getting the customer support issues and a little bit shy after the first very enthusiastic push. But I think that is still the right approach. And if you are, again, we need more support from the community around the world. Please come and participate at the UASG. And yes, I think governments need to be part of the program. SDGs might be we were talking about environment programs. The Sustainable Development Goals actually do have particularly parts of it about the infrastructure and about supporting the heritage and the culture on the local language and all that kind of thing. That could be, IDNs could be baked into that. And if it is part of an SDG index that the governments need to report, then maybe we can see even more movement in that. So that's my view.
Thank you so much. We have a few minutes before the session ending, and I would like to make it in any positive way. So I would like to ask every panelist and maybe someone from the audience to bring the evidence that IDN is still alive, that it works good, and to make an example, to bring an example of the IDN name that they think to be one of them, to be pretty successful, and to bring a very short, very brief description of what is this web source is about. I think Liana and Sanya is also can participate. So please, we will start from you.
You got me. So as a successful, I would say that using our scripts in one particular name that cannot be done in Latin script is one of the vivid projects that we could have. I would not name that domain name, but it's like in Latin script, it's absolutely not to use
You
that
can
name.
name it in Armenian. I think it's good.
No, well, that would look like an advertisement.
Okay.
I guess. So
Okay.
I'm not going to do that. But it's really like there's a big difference between the Latin script one and the Armenian script. So it's in order to use some of our letters, we are using 3 or 4 even Latin scripts. So
I see.
it looks like a big one in Latin, while we can do that in Armenian, a very short one and a precise one.
Sanya?
So currently, most of the Cyrillic domains in Macedonia are registered by the companies, let's say. So I would say that maybe we should motivate the persons to register the Cyrillic domains, and maybe I look like maybe every Macedonian brand, like a singer, product, or something, should have a Cyrillic domain that ends with .mk.
Do you know any successful example of Macedonian domain that already exists?
Yeah, before I come here, I translated all the domains and I looked in our database and I was searching the domain names and I was noticed that most of them actually are name of some school, municipality or so on. And I noticed rabota.mkd, that means work.mkd. And I says, oh, this is a new site for searching a job, advertisement, and so on. And I typed that URL, and it was actually the home page of one of our registrars. And it was just used as a redirection to go to their home page.
I see. Thank you, Sasha.
I will just say again, and I mentioned it in the beginning, that we started a really good cooperation with our National Institute for Macedonian Language. That is one bright side of this idea and story, and it continued through the years. And regarding some special domain, I cannot say now.
Okay. Tushin, please, your example.
Well, I don't have any example, unfortunately. But I can say that IDNs are important and we should promote them. They're important for protecting the culture, for promoting the culture, local languages, and I think that we should encourage governments to promote them via procurement, as we heard before.
I see. Alena, what's you think to be the most successful or one of the most successful name in .bel?
From 2015 by now we see more and more projects and sites and businesses that use certainly .bl domain, and as for me, I'm very proud that our government is going also online and they start very useful social, or not social, but generally projects like Перехват Бел and Штраф Бел. The idea of these sites is to share the accidents on roads with the citizens of Minsk, for example. And these projects definitely work, and they both are in .bel zone.
Thank you. Yoni? Do you know any?
Yeah, that is a good question. No, I don't. They're in scripts that I cannot read and in languages that I cannot pronounce. But it's actually the funny part aside. I've noticed that recently in internet searches and so on, and also in other media, you start to see them more. You start to see them more than you did 5 years ago. And I think that what I've seen more is, especially in Arabic and in Chinese, or I assume it's Chinese, basically, but because of my restricted language skills in those scripts, it's a little bit hard for me to tell what those were.
I see. Thank you. Edmund, what is your favorite idea domain name?
My favorite is something that's interesting. It's actually biggatecrap.asia, biggatecrap in Chinese, but it's a kind of hairy crab that is seasonal at some place, and everyone likes to buy a bunch of it, and I actually bought it from that. But what is interesting about that, and why I like about it, is that it actually is not a full website. It redirects to their Facebook page. And I think we need to rethink, the use of domain names sometimes. Of course, it's great to be used fully in infrastructure, but this kind of redirection can help spark the actual usage. And marketing guys can quickly get it set up and start using it so that end users are aware that there's that possibility. That's why I think, don't belittle redirection, and I think that's the reason why I like this particular one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Irina, what's the name you think to be successful in .rf or maybe in .data?
Well, I really enjoy when I see, I'm happy to see the government officials using the IDN names. But I'm also very happy to see real businesses, or not businesses, but projects using these IDN names. Like when I go to the country and I see billboards advertising real estate sales and using the Cyrillic domain names, or when I see small tracks in the streets with the names like with Gruzovichkov.rf written on it, and this is tracks you call when you need to move furniture from like one place or another, or other goods. Or one of my best beloved examples is Zdarovoye Deti, which is healthy.kids, and which is like a web portal about health for kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jennifer. She's absent. Okay, we have a question from the audience, please.
It's Barry Liba. Question about what Edmund said. Related to you send me email and I don't recognize the text of the email address. The other way around with redirection, if somebody who types in an address in Korean and it gets redirected to something in Latin script, do they not get confused by looking at the browser window and seeing suddenly script that they don't recognize up in the address bar?
So quickly, I guess it's really up to the one who set it up, redirection. So my point is just that redirection is not something evil or anything. So, but yes, to your point, that particular site actually redirects to Facebook page, but it's all in Chinese. So so it doesn't have that problem. But I think what you mentioned is
so the fact that the body of the page is in the language they expect overrides the fact that the address in the address bar isn't. That's what you're saying.
No, it's actually redirected to it. So they would have typed in
yeah. Right. But then it's redirected to something .facebook.
Right, and they're still comfortable with Facebook generally, right? So,
okay.
So the end user, and when they look at it, you look at the Facebook profile, it actually shows the IDN domain as well.
Okay.
And yes, and we have another one comment.
Sorry to interrupt you again. I think one of the points that can help on the global acceptance, maybe the ICANN guy can help me on this. We can play a little bit around the whois services, and as currently ICANN are working in something related to directory services. So maybe we can have some kind of, in the whois database, we have the domain name in, for example, IDN format, and we have the information in the same language and also in English, for example. So the global directory from ICANN perspective could help on that, maybe.
Thank you so much. I think we're moving to the end of the session, and I think we got a very interesting discussion because we touched the idea from almost every perspective. We mentioned the businesses, the governments, the marketing, and technical solutions. So I would like to thank panelists for participating. Oh, we have another one coming from Liana, right? Oh, I see. I would like to thank panelists for participating and to thank all of you for being here. Thank you so much.
And just as a wrapping up of this session, I would like to say about the collaborative session that we have done for this year for the first time. So sorry for being late for the beginning of it. I don't know if you have said or not, but this is a collaborative session between different NRIs, and it's a joint work of Russian IGF, Nepal IGF, Macedonian IGF, and CDIG, which is sub-regional. And I would like to thank the organizers as well for this joint thing. This is really very fruitful and useful for us and good exercise for the next years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liana.
I think it was good. Yeah, I think it went well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
По-моему, получилось отлично.
Sorry, I was pushed into this situation, so I wasn't prepared for the last question.
Anyway, yes, because you were joining at the very end, because when I was...
I joined this morning.
When I was throwing the question, I sent it out to all the participants. I see. Anyway, it was good. It was good.
В общем, с вами было очень приятно начинать такой путь. В общем, спасибо большое.
По-моему, неплохо.
Ну,
Довольно
мне кажется,
живо.
да, всё
По
хорошо.
крайней мере, не было вот этих вот слайдов, которые вот здесь
Ну да,
сидят.
это правда.
Как-то
Так
вот
что очень
какая-то
круто,
такая.
спасибо большое.
Хорошо. Соответственно, как бы IGF российский был